Have you ever caught someone in such a bold lie that it made you question if they were even living in the same reality as you? Alright, so let me lay it all out. My name's Jack, I'm 32, and I thought I was married to the love of my life, Sarah. We've been together for 8 years, married for 5, and honestly, I thought we had a pretty solid thing going. We weren't perfect, who is? But I never imagined she'd destroy everything we built together in the most absurd way possible. It all started when Sarah's behavior shifted. You know the cliches, staying late at work, guarding her phone like it was the nuclear launch codes, and acting distant. I tried to brush it off at first. Work stress, maybe? But the gut feeling I had wouldn't quit. One night, she comes home. Later than usual, her hair a little too perfect for someone who claimed to have been in back-to-back meetings all day. I asked her about it casually, but she dodged the question and went straight to bed. That was when my suspicion hit critical mass. I couldn't ignore it anymore, so I did something I never thought I'd do. I checked her phone while she was in the shower. And there it was, clear as day, a string of texts between her and her boss, Greg. It wasn't just flirty stuff either. They were talking about their plans and even joking about how much they spent at some hotel the previous weekend. I confronted her that night. She didn't even try to deny it. Sarah just stared at me, then mumbled something about how she'd felt unappreciated in our marriage and how Greg made her feel alive again. Alive? I was so furious I couldn't see straight. She kept saying it was a mistake, but it didn't feel like a mistake to me. It felt like a choice. Here's where it gets insane. You'd think that would have been the low point, right? Wrong. A few days later, Sarah comes to me and says she wants to work things out. But, and I kid you not, she also asks if I can help cover her credit card bill. I asked what for, and she casually mentions it's the hotel stays with Greg. At first, I laughed because I thought she was joking. She wasn't. She said something about how we're still married and how I should help her through this transition. Transition to what? Being single and jobless? I told her no way in hell was I paying for her affair. She acted all offended, like I was the one being unreasonable. That conversation led to a massive fight. She threw out every excuse in the book, how I hadn't been romantic enough, how I worked too much, how Greg just happened to understand her better. And then she played the ultimate victim card, crying about how she was now in debt because Greg bailed on her once their little fling got messy. Turns out Greg's wife found out too, and she wasn't as forgiving. She filed for divorce immediately and dragged Greg through the mud at work. He ended up resigning to spend time with family, which basically left Sarah out in the cold. She genuinely thought I'd be her safety net after all this. The final straw came when Sarah suggested couples therapy, but not to fix our marriage. No, she wanted me to help her heal so she could figure out her feelings for Greg. I walked out of the house right then and there. I filed for divorce the next day. Week. Sarah, of course, tried to spin it like I was abandoning her. She even went to her family and some of our mutual friends, crying about how I refused to forgive her mistakes. Some of them actually took her side, saying I should be the bigger person. Here's the kicker. Sarah texted me last week saying she's suing me for financial support because she's accustomed to a certain lifestyle from our marriage. Her words, not mine. Apparently that lifestyle includes cheating and blowing money on luxury hotel stays with her boss. I don't know what the court will decide, but I've kept every text, every receipt, and every shred of evidence. There's no way I'm letting her get away with this. The wildest part? She still doesn't seem to think she did anything wrong. It's like she genuinely believes I owe her something for her decisions. I guess the only thing I owe her now is a clean break and a lifetime of silence. So what do you think? Am I crazy, or is this whole situation as insane as it feels? Alright, here's the update you've been waiting for. If you thought the original story couldn't get any crazier, buckle up because things took a turn I wasn't expecting. Spoiler, it's even messier now. So, after I filed for divorce, Sarah was predictably furious. She kept texting me, accusing me of giving up on her, being heartless, and other manipulative nonsense. I ignored most of it. I was done engaging. But then came the bombshell. She served me with papers claiming spousal support. That's right, the woman who cheated on me with her boss and then had the audacity to ask me to pay for their affair, was now demanding money to maintain her lifestyle. I'll admit, I laughed when I first read the papers. It was so absurd it almost felt like a joke. But then the realization hit. This wasn't a joke. She was seriously trying to milk me for money after everything she'd done. My lawyer assured me we had a strong case against her claim, especially with all the evidence I had. Texts, receipts, everything. Still, the audacity of it all had me reeling. Here's where things get interesting. During the legal process, we had to disclose financial records. Turns out, Sarah had been hiding a secret. She'd racked up tens of thousands of dollars in debt. Not just from her affair, but from years of reckless spending. Designer clothes, expensive dinners, spa trips, you name it. She'd been living way beyond her means, and now she was desperate to make someone else, me, foot the bill. But wait, there's more. Remember her boss, Greg? Well, his wife's divorce proceedings were also in full swing, and she wasn't holding back. She'd hired a private investigator who uncovered even more dirt on Greg and Sarah. Apparently, their fling wasn't just limited to a few hotel stays. They'd been using company funds for some of their escapades. Yup, they were expensing their little rendezvous as business trips. Greg's wife handed over this information to his company, and guess what? Greg is now under investigation for embezzlement. When Sarah found out, she freaked. She called me in tears, begging for help. She claimed she had no idea Greg was misusing company money and swore she was just a victim in all of this. Victim? Seriously? I told her to lose my number and let her deal with the fallout on her own. I wasn't about to get dragged into her mess any more than I already had been. Fast forward a few weeks, and we're in court. Sarah's lawyer tries to paint her as this poor, misunderstood woman who made a mistake and deserves a second chance. My lawyer, however, comes in, swinging with all the receipts, literally. The texts, the hotel bills, the evidence of her spending habits. It was a slam dunk. The judge ruled in my favor, denying her request for spousal support. She's now stuck with her debt and no one to bail her out. But here's the cherry on top. After the ruling, one of Sarah's friends, someone I'd always thought was in her corner, reached out to me. She told me Sarah had been bad-mouthing me to everyone we knew, claiming I was abusive and controlling. This friend, however, had seen through the lies and wanted me to know that not everyone believed Sarah's version of events. She even apologized for not speaking up sooner. It was a bittersweet moment. On one hand, it felt good to know that not everyone had bought into Sarah's manipulation. On the other hand, it was a reminder of how far she was willing to go to make herself look like the victim. So, where am I now? Well, the divorce is finalized, and I'm officially free of Sarah and her drama. I've started therapy to work through everything, and it's been a game changer. I've also reconnected with some old friends who've been incredibly supportive throughout this whole ordeal. As for Sarah, last I heard, she's still struggling financially and trying to piece her life back together. Part of me feels bad for her, but then I remember the pain she put me through, and that sympathy quickly fades. If there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's to trust your gut. When something feels off, it probably is. And no matter how much you love someone, you can't let them walk all over you. At the end of the day, self-respect matters more than trying to save a relationship that's already broken beyond repair. Thanks for sticking with me through this wild ride. If you've got similar stories or advice, drop them in the comments. I'd love to hear how others have navigated situations like this. Cheers to moving on and finding peace.